back, folks. We are really excited to be with you here again. I'm Jennifer Connect, Vice President of Marketing and Sales for Emmanuel, and I am super pleased to be here today with somebody who I think is just going to fill your soul with delight by the time we're finished with this particular resource. As we're all hunkering down at home, trying not to just survive, but thrive, Emmanuel's really proud to bring you, and very humbled to bring you, a whole host of videos from the many experts around Emmanuel throughout our system. And who better to help us find new ways to be creative in the kitchen than our very own General Manager of Culinary Services.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you for being with us here today. And,
Sure.
you bring so many years, well, not only just a fantastic, laugh and great person to be around, but lots and lots of expertise on the restaurant side. You've grown multiple different restaurants of your own from zero to gangbusters and super popular, I know. But before we jump into some of the great resources you're going to share with us today, briefly give us just a little bit of background about some of that and how you came to be where you are today at Emmanuel.
Sure. So restaurants are just kind of something that's been kind of sewn into my makeup, I guess, call it. It's food service is always something that I've always wanted to do. And even from an early age, just the only thing I truly wanted to kind of pursue in my career was to be a chef. And that was just in our family kind of a driver. And food has always been kind of center stage at every event. And this runs back just creativity. It started early on with my mom's side. My grandma used to cook in the newspaper, and she would run the cooking column in the newspaper. And so just a huge Catholic family. And like I said, food has always just been kind of the center stage at every event that we've had. Growing up as a kid, we were always taught to create and taught to cook and do fun things in the kitchen. I can remember doing that as I was a small kid, standing, this knee high to my mom, and she would teach us all these secrets and things that she had learned throughout the years. And so it was just super interesting to me. And knowing, wanting to grow and wanting to learn and wanting to thrive just in the culinary world is exactly what I did. So sticking with it all the way through high school and all the way to college. And I graduated from Le Cordon Bleu in Chicago. So really went from a small town of 400 people to, the big city is what we used to call it. And just letting food just drive like me as a person, super passionate about it. Having said that, there's a multitude of restaurants in the industry, and you virtually can step into any role, with enough dedication and knowledge. But always, kind of what's helped me is just to always want to learn and do more than the person next to you. And I think that was kind of the driver for me. But after culinary school, taking time and really learning what big city food service and restaurants were, I was just amazed at how many table turns restaurants do, and the structuring behind the menus and the buying and just the vendor relations. So there's a lot of components and aspects to making the business successful. But the first question they ask you when you go to culinary school is, what do you want to do after culinary school? And everybody says they want to own a restaurant. And so it's you get a lot of my cohort and people that were in class with me that really virtually had little to no experience of the restaurant business. And so you kind of laugh and you're like, yeah, you have no idea how much hours and energy it takes to do that. But, that was my goal. And so I just stuck with it and really just put it on the back burner. And so, the back burner moves a little bit closer and closer to the front until finally it's a reality. And so that was a true joy for me. My role with Emmanuel, it was nice because, the one thing in independent businesses is, the amount of work and dedication it takes. And so, just as in life, you always try to seek a good work-life balance. And so that was something that I didn't have. And so truly it's wanting to balance kind of your industry and do what you still love, but do it for people that really are looking for that. And so that's when I found Emmanuel, and I just, since day one, it's been just a true joy. We've got such an audience that has, a liking to food, and kind of those same things that I was taught and my upbringing are things that are popular with the residents. And so it's wonderful to be able to do that day in and day out and help manage and build a program for people to enjoy.
Love that, Samuel. And you brought along with you not only passion and a great deal of experience, not just with the restaurant world, but just generally in crafting exceptional experiences. And I know that's what largely you've been focused on while you've been at Emmanuel, which is how can we enhance the experience of our resident while we're adding in some additional new restaurants and new venues. I mean, lots of great, exciting things going on there on the dining side at Emmanuel in particular over the last couple of years. So especially now, food. You mentioned food and being in the kitchen with your mom, and food is largely seen, I think, in probably any society, especially here in the United States and definitely in the Midwest where we serve in Iowa and Nebraska at Emmanuel, as a gathering time, a time for us to come together and just experience one another and the camaraderie. And that's a little bit more difficult now because we're not able to necessarily gather around food. So at a time when we're all focused on hunkering down at home, trying to socially distance ourselves so that we can end the spread of COVID-19, food can still do great things to create experiences for us. But I'm sure that a lot of us are finding ourselves maybe trying to find new ways to get creative at home. Hunkering down at home, maybe we're cooking a little bit more. Perhaps we used to eat out a lot more, and now we're really trying to find some interesting ways to be creative in the kitchen. What do you see are some of the challenges and benefits for seniors in particular, eating more meals at home?
This is going to be kind of a general, and I think I'm seeing this a lot in my friends as well, where it's hard to create meals for one or two people. I think that's the biggest challenge. Our residents are a generation where, they were used to pulling out a pot and boiling potatoes and making dumplings and doing the things from scratch. But it's really challenging at this point to do all that for one person or two people. And so I think looking at that alone would be kind of a big challenge. And also, too, just getting, how do you get the ingredients? A lot of our residents, their mobility in terms of driving is pretty scarce. But how do they, do you have a son or daughter or a granddaughter drop ingredients off? And so just, I think planning in general right now is super key to success of cooking at home.
That's funny. So it's my husband and I, and there's only two of us, which is, I'm going to use that as maybe my excuse why we tend to pick up carry-out food quite frequently versus cooking in the kitchen because there's only two of us. But I would totally 100% wholeheartedly agree. I grew up here in Nebraska, and my mom always made fantastic meals, fantastic dinners, and she cooked for the four of us, my sister and I and my dad. And, we always sat down and had a wonderful, lovely evening meal, no matter what was going on. That was kind of part of our family time. I'm sure that so many people, their kids have moved away, or maybe their grandkids have moved away, and they're maybe not doing large sit-down meals like they used to, especially now when we're all trying to hunker down at home. So either cooking for one person or two people is certainly an interesting challenge. Add to that, of course, we've had some interesting challenges at the grocery store in general. Maybe there's been a little bit of scarcity. I think we're through that time, though, really, in the grocery store and not in finding bare shelves. I think that kind of has passed. The good news is that maybe a lot of us are starting to try new things like Instacart and having food delivered to us, which is always a great option. And folks, if you haven't listened to some of the other resources, hop back, because if you're from Lincoln, or if you're from the Omaha, Council Bluffs area, or if you're from the Des Moines area, we have some great resources and ways in which you can order in groceries to yourselves, so you don't actually have to leave and go grocery shopping. However, like you mentioned, Emmanuel has these really great markets. So markets in most of our communities, not all of our communities, but in many of our retirement communities, we have markets. And in the communities that don't have a regular market, I know you and your team have been really working around the clock to bring pop-up markets. So now all of our residents have access to some of the staples that you might find or that you might have in your refrigerator. I sent to Samuel just a few days ago kind of this challenging question: how can we be creative with some of these staples that we might have in our refrigerator, like easy to get, easy to grab, kind of regular things that everybody has sitting around, and or things that we have in the Emmanuel markets, or that should be fairly easy for you to order and have delivered to your house. So I'm going to give you this challenge now, and folks, I think you're going to definitely benefit and find some of the magic that Samuel brings to everything come alive here. So So give us just, I guess, a quick overview, Samuel. What ingredients did you select from that small list I shot over to you? And then give us, walk us through a couple of recipes on what we can do cooking for just a couple people at home and making, the regular things a little bit more magical than they might be on a normal day.
Sure. The best part about I know COVID-19 right now is kind of a downer for everybody, but truly for foodies or people that are wanting to experiment, now is really truly the time to do that. Food isn't complicated. It's not a super complicated thing. There's lots of resources available in terms of knowledge and walking you step by step through different things if you don't know things that are common in a kitchen. And even I find myself during this time making a lot of things from scratch. And so it was interesting. We talk about, and we started to see at the beginning of the outbreak that there was a huge scarcity of items in the grocery store, but it was interesting to me to see the generational gap, of the youngsters, I guess, young adults right now that are raising small families. And it was interesting because you walk through the frozen section and all the pre-prepared meals were gone, and you would walk through the meat department and they were stocked full. Well, nobody knows how to use those items. And so,
Sure.
The chicken strips were gone first and then the French fries and all the frozen vegetables. And it was just interesting to me walking through the store. But, something that I've been making a lot recently during this time, it is a little bit time consuming, but homemade pasta, no one thinks about it. It's literally 3 ingredients. It's everything that everybody has at home on their shelf. Eggs, water, and flour, a little bit of salt. And, the dough can be refrigerated for a couple days if you want to leave it in there and just have a little bit on hand and roll it out. But you can make ravioli, you can make tortellini, you can make fettuccine. So the list is endless with that. And it's such a fun activity for families to do. And so another one that I put together, something that I like, they're just dessert meringue shells, and it's 2 ingredients. It's sugar and egg whites. And you beat the egg whites and then you slowly sift the sugar in until it becomes stiff peaks. Put it in a piping bag and pipe it into circles on parchment paper, or you can put it in like a dollop on parchment paper with kind of how you would do mashed potatoes and leave a divot in the top. And then all you do is you bake them super, super slow. But what they do is they come out and they're sweet and they can hold a variety of things. They're kind of a neat vessel, an edible vessel, I would call it. But you can put lemon curd with fresh berries in there, or whipped cream with fresh berries, or even ice cream goes well in there. So that's a fun activity as well. I find myself kind of at this time doing a lot of snacking. It's not necessarily eating a lot of meals, but you snack throughout the day. And so some things that I like kind of just in the afternoon as a pick-me-up, maybe with a cup of coffee, I like to make some sweet and salty snack mix. And so there's really no right or wrong to that recipe. But what's fun is you can literally put anything in there that you have on hand. So any salted nuts or popcorns are good in there, dried fruit. In our markets, we stock these chocolate-covered blueberries, which are really, really good. And we've got some dried apple chips and just a variety of things. And you can put caramel corn in it, or kettle corn is good. And then what I always do is I melt just a candy bar, so a Snickers bar or a Milky Way or any of that, and then you mix all the dry ingredients together, and then you just drizzle this melted chocolate on top of it and let it dry. And so it comes out in chunks, and so it's just kind of a fun little afternoon pick-me-up. And so those little things, they don't have to be complicated, but they just something that you're proud of. You made it from scratch, and you can share with others if you'd like. They're really good to bag up and maybe send to a neighbor or across the street or to a friend. So they're really, really, really fun.
Oh, I love that. We're coming up on May Day, or maybe you're listening to this after May Day, but those are really great tips on little packets that we could deliver to maybe brighten somebody else's day with a random act of kindness by paying it forward. And I love, Samuel, you and I were chatting about this when we started talking about the idea of this particular resource. And we were talking a little bit about the slowing down food, right? So you mentioned that most of the freezer items were gone right away off of the grocery shelves, which is funny because we're all sort of hardwired to be in a go, 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 go kind of, that kind of a mode. And all of this has forced us in general just to slow down. And so Now, as we're hunkering down at home, trying to not just survive, but to thrive, hunkering down, what a great time to explore some new ideas. And those were really, I mean, three delightful. And I can certainly speak for myself, but I guarantee that anybody who spends the time to actually make or prepare those would feel not only the sense of accomplishment, but probably a sense of real delight as they get to bite into some really scrumptious food.
Absolutely. And it's a great, Jennifer, it's a great talking point. You know, I've got a lot of friends right now that are eating almost every meal around the table, which internally I'm just smiling. You know, it's just something that not a lot of us have time to do. And so in terms of food and at the time that we're in with COVID-19, it's neat to be able to slow households down a little bit and kind of reset everybody back to kind of the way that I was raised. We ate every meal around the table almost every day. And so it's neat to see that, you know, when you bring the dinner right to the table and everybody digs in, and, you know, that's truly what food is. It's an event. And that's in a nutshell is hospitality, which is exactly what we give here at Emmanuel.
I love that. And we will, of course, include all these scrumptious recipes that Samuel just gave us the oversight for. We're going to include those in the tip sheet, which is right here on this page. You can just download it from this page and get all that great information so you can actually prepare or try your hand at preparing some of these great ideas that Samuel's giving us. So share with us now. Let's shift a little bit back to Emmanuel. You and your team have been hard at work doing amazing things across the entire Emmanuel retirement community system. So tell us a little bit more about how your team helps our residents at Emmanuel enjoy food, and delicious food, scrumptious food at that, and how we're really working to, I'm going to call it, revolutionize retirement living, the typical retirement living type of food, which Emmanuel does not any longer have in any of our communities.
It's neat to be able to be structured with a team that has a knowledge base that, you know, and just past experience. I think just a few months ago, I totaled up between my team, how many years experience do we have combined in the restaurant business? And it was, I think we were 2 years shy of 100 years, just if you took all of our experiences and added them up. But it's interesting to where, you know, we don't serve just food. We don't just have dining rooms. We have restaurants. We have great features, fresh fish catches that we bring in. So, you know, we're not focused on frozen convenience, one meal of the day. Truly, our residents have a wide variety of things that they can choose. They essentially can choose anything, you know, that's desirable for them for that day. Our chefs are also trained, and culinarians in our field are also trained to really accommodate the resident. And so I know tastes change often. And so that's why our features and catches are very, very popular. And the chefs really do put a lot of thought into those. And so it's neat to actually see, you know, in terms of talent that we bring in, we're hiring really great talent that have a wide variety of restaurant experience and backgrounds. But it's neat to see that kind of evolve and develop in our communities. And so our signatures and mid-markets, and they all have the ability to really have some great meals. And so, you know, just looking at the program in general, putting ourselves in the shoes of the residents, what is it that we would want to eat, or what, you know, would we want to eat meatloaf every day, or would we like a wide variety of things? And so that's what we're doing. You know, just kind of breaking the program apart and kind of retooling it and restructuring it from every angle, and even in front of the house with service. But just really the direction that we're headed is, we don't give service. We truly give hospitality. Service is what you do for somebody, and hospitality is how you make them feel. And so that's the direction that we're headed. So I'm really proud to be a part of that.
It's absolutely a fun time to be at Emmanuel, and I would fully agree. Lots of great innovation. Your team is doing extraordinary things across the Emmanuel system when it comes to food and the enjoyment and the community, the sense of community that we have around that. But I'm going to leave all of the folks out there who just have heard this wonderful little resource and gathered hopefully some really good ideas on what you might want to prepare tonight or sometime this week for dinner or for lunch. Samuel, if you would leave us with maybe just one final thought on how we really start to embrace and slow down, I guess get back to the slow food movement of enjoying the art of preparing the food and then maybe savoring it as we're sitting around, either sitting around with our families or our friends, you know, as we come out of COVID-19, and or maybe even just enjoying the meal ourselves. What would you leave for us as maybe just one or two easy ideas on how we can make that experience, the dining experience, exceptional as well?
We all are going 100 miles an hour in every other direction. And so truly, the end of the day or the beginning of the day should be all about family time. And so what I would truly suggest, and I've been doing this as well, but meal prepping, like if you've got your oven on and you're baking, let's say you're baking fish for the evening, like you've got a whole nother rack in there where you could bake chicken for tomorrow's lunch or tomorrow. So it's really truly helping write a menu. And I do this currently. I develop like my own weekly menu for home. So I know there's no really guessing at the end of the day. Like I know what ingredients I have and when I'm going to cook those or process those. And so what that does is it really gives me a clear direction and kind of limits that, that guessing at the end of the day. So it's something too to even look forward to. That's a great activity. Menu building internally for your own kitchen is a great activity to get, maybe do that around the table one night. Well, what should we have next week? And Wednesday I want, homemade pizza and I'm going to make the dough. And so it's fun. And so that's one thing that I would suggest is meal prepping and writing a menu for your own kitchen and family.
I love that, Samuel. If you are home alone and you don't have a family that you're prepping or planning your meal or your menu with, maybe think about giving your neighbor a call or give your granddaughter or your grandson a call, or that person in your life that's maybe just a little bit younger than you, because this time when we have a little bit more time to kind of get back to some of the joys, I think, around food, around the mealtime, might be a really great time for you to start mentoring, somebody in your life that's a little bit younger that might need a little help with the idea of menu planning for the week. That's a really good tip, Samuel. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and even one last one, open up those old cookbooks. We've all got them. And, the church cookbooks are the best ones. They have the best recipes in them. And just start to go through those. So that would be my last tip.
Oh, I love that. And you know what? I'm going to combine that with, we had Cameo Rogers on earlier, and she was talking about how to create new experiences. If you're wanting to get a little wild, like experience, I guess, dinner on the wild side, maybe you take the names of the recipes or the pages that you always wanted to try and put them into a mason jar, just like the experience jar that Cameo suggested. Put them all in there and then perhaps try picking one out like every evening for the next day or the next couple of days ahead. That way you can have time to make sure that you have the right ingredients. But maybe that's the way you kind of get a little wild with the way in which you do your menu planning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that idea.
Try some new ideas. Well, thank you, Samuel. This has been absolutely wonderful. I'm sure that folks, you will walk away, make sure you try these great, like easy recipes with the staple ingredients that we probably all have in our refrigerators or are really easy for us to get. Certainly if we're for any of our residents inside of Emmanuel communities, you can just head down to the market and be able to grab those easy to use ingredients right off the shelf. And if not, you can certainly use Instacart or one of those other delivery services to have them delivered to your door if you're living in the community at large. Samuel, again, really appreciate your time. Thanks for the great resources today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jennifer.
Folks, we'll be back again with a whole host of additional resources. So if you haven't checked out some of the other ones, make sure you hop on back and keep checking this page as we continue to grow and add new things as in Emmanuel's series of not just surviving, but thriving at home.